really cool is I just got to ride the ZX4R, and I thought it would be kind of neat to kind of share some of the differences between the two motorcycles for you guys. God, I love that quick shifter auto flipper. But if you notice, even this year they got so much cheaper. Well, not so much cheaper, they just went down by like $1,000, which is amazing. But between the ZX4R for 2024 and the RR, even the KRT version is only like $600 more, which I thought was freaking awesome. So I know it kind of makes the decision a little bit easier for you guys to choose whether or not you want the ZX4R or the RR. From what I can tell, they both have ram air. So my initial thought was that the 4R wasn't going to come with ram air for some reason. I don't remember what I read back in the day that said that that was a possibility, but it doesn't appear that that is what happened, so we're good there, which is awesome. If you guys know something that I don't, please put it down in the comments and say whether or not, if you know for a fact that it doesn't have ram air. But reading through the website and looking at riding the bike, I could not tell that one did or didn't have it, that the 4R didn't have it. Oh man, I miss this thing. So much fun to have an on quick shifter auto flipper, no doubt. Thing that is something worth talking about between the RR and RR is the fact that the RR has better suspension front and back. And what I mean by better suspension is not only is it a better component, but you get more adjustability. The more adjustability on suspension, the better. You want to be able to set your preload, you want to be able to set your rebound, and you want to be able to set your compression. So to do that, you need to have, you know, usually better suspension. And the RR comes with those capabilities of adjustment, which is pretty cool. But to stay on the suspension side of life, just because the 4RR is better in the suspension compartment doesn't mean that this suspension is good enough when you really start getting out there and pushing this bike. Keep that in mind. So the next major change is going to be, we get a quick shifter / auto blipper with the RR versus the R. It's so weird going back and forth from my other bike has GP shift, so like I'm just trying to get used to the major differences between the two, and it's definitely frustrating. Sitting there collecting dust with all the racing I've been doing on the R7. That was such a fun year, but I digress. I go on to something else. So back to the suspension is different. You get a quick shifter auto blipper on the RR. You do not get a quick shifter auto blipper on the R. So those are, like, in my opinion, the two major differences from the motorcycle, between the two anyway. Let me tell you, like, if you want to buy one of them and you're not sure which one you want to buy, I'm going to give you my opinions on which ones and why you would buy which ones. Or at least if I was going to go back and do this all over again, what would I do if I didn't already have the RR, because this was the only thing out when it got introduced. So if you're planning on racing this motorcycle and like you're not really gonna take it on the street, you're not gonna get, you know, you're only gonna be so good of a rider, like you're never gonna like push to become like a heavy racer guy, and you're not gonna take this thing to the racetrack more than maybe a couple times a year. My thought process is you should get the RR. $600 more, quick shifter, better suspension, dial it in to where it's decent, and just go with that, and you'll be pretty dang happy. If you're gonna take this thing to the track, I kind of find it being a little bit different decision. And the reason for that is everything we do on a motorcycle is super duper expensive. Like when it comes to suspension on the track, like you'll notice, and I noticed heavily with my R7, was that I could totally like push the bike and the suspension would feel okay for about 3 laps. And that's when, if you guys, you know, follow my channel, you notice I changed the fork oil in the Yamaha R7, and that helped considerably. But that just made the bike run better for a couple of laps until all of it heated up and everything started changing. So, in my opinion, you could get stock suspension to work really good for the track as long as you're only doing a couple of laps. Once you start exceeding that and pushing harder and maybe racing where you're starting to race 6 to 8 to 12 laps per race, that suspension cannot hang in any way, shape, or form. And getting your upgrade to like Öhlins or, you know, a Drenai or whatever, like a good insert for the motorcycle and a good rear shock. And you're not going to, you know, you're not, in my opinion, going to need those things until you're pushing your bike so hard for a longer distance. So if you're not looking to a couple little bucks over there, that's cool. If you're not looking to race the motorcycle, I think you should spend the extra money, get the quick shifter auto blipper, get the better suspension, dial it in to make it feel good, and be good with the motorcycle because it's freaking rad the way it is. If the idea is you want to turn it into a race bike, as previously stated, the suspension is okay. The R is not got the best suspension, but you're gonna replace it, guaranteed. After your first race season, or maybe even after your first couple track days, you're gonna realize you have most likely overrode the suspension front and rear. And at whatever point it takes for you to get there, you'll get there, and you'll want to swap that stuff out. So ZX4R, the ZX4R, saving that $600, that depending on what you buy, that could be almost, you know, the price of your fork inserts that you need, or the shock that you need, or more importantly, a steering damper. You really need one of those, in my opinion, even on these smaller bikes. So you don't get the quick shifter auto blipper. Sounds great. You're not going to care, because the more I've rode this thing on the track, the more I've not liked it. So if I was going to track this thing and keep pushing it, I would probably get an aftermarket quick shifter that is going to operate better than this one. I can't tell you like how many times I've gone into a corner knowing I needed to get into the second gear and not being able to get it there because it's just froze. Like it won't downshift into second gear. It drives me freaking crazy. It only does it to me in second gear. It seems like no other gear does that to me, but just with that frustration, I would be buying a different quick shifter if I was going to push this thing harder. So that's kind of like my opinions. Like the 4R, you know, save that 600 bucks, use that money for upgrades, because you know that's what you're going to do with the bike. You're probably going to strip it down, so it doesn't really care what color the bike is. You might be putting aftermarket bearings on it most likely, and you know, getting a better quick shifter, getting better suspension. And yeah, that's kind of like my thought process here going into like whether or not you should buy the R or the RR. Obviously, in my opinion, it heavily weighs on what you want to do with the motorcycle. You're gonna do a couple track days a year, and ever push it that hard and want to enjoy it on the streets and some back roads having a blast, get the 4RR. If you know you're gonna put some extra money, effort, and mods into it and actually try and race it, just buy the 4RR and save your money. So I hope that was helpful information for you guys. Thanks for watching, and yeah, I'll see you guys next week. Bye!